All right, and welcome to the knowns and unknowns of myopia management and other cool stuff in optometry. And this show is brought to you by the American Academy of Orthokeratology and Myopia Control. And it's also brought to you by GP Specialists. GP Specialists is 100% dedicated to ortho-k and has one of the world's largest portfolios of ortho-k lenses. We thank them for their support. And I'd also like to say thank you to Contamac for underwriting a portion of today's program. Optimum is one of the most popular lens materials in the market. And before we get started, I also want to add that the opinions and viewpoints expressed tonight do not necessarily reflect the AAOMC or its sponsors. All right, so this is episode 1 of a 6-part series. And we have 2 topics for you tonight. Our first part is how to be successful with myopia management. And then after that, we'll be featuring a clinical corner, which the topic of which is what kind of ortho-k lens design should I prescribe for what type of patient? All right, for our main topic, let me introduce our panelists. First off, we have Dr. Nick Despotidis. He's a charter member of the AAOMC. You may know him from his TEDx talk. You may know him from his book, or you may know him from his seminar at Vision by Design, which is called SuperCharge Your Practice. Nick, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Next, we have Dr. Glenda Moheeputh. She's an AAOMC member and is one of the leaders of the AAOMC South Florida local chapter. She runs Optometry Divas and does consulting on incorporating myopia management. Glenda, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much for having me. And I have to say it's such an honor to be here sharing this webinar with Dr. D.
All right. And I'm Matthew Herzberg. I'm the Executive Director of the American Academy of Orthokeratology and Myopia Control. I'll be your host and moderator for tonight's panel discussion. And so to set the stage for the discussion, I want to tell you about a question that I've been asking eye doctors at conferences and exhibit halls. And this is going back pre-COVID. And the question I've been asking them is, are you doing myopia management? And if not, why not? And usually when I ask this question, the answer is no. And the reasons are usually time and money. But if I dig a little bit deeper, I start to get answers like, I don't do myopia management because I don't have any Asian patients. And then I think, I know this doctor in Florida named Glenda, and her patient base is dominantly Hispanic. In fact, I don't think she has many Asian patients at all. And likewise, I hear something like parents aren't interested and they won't pay for it. So I don't have enough to do it full time. And I think to myself, I know this guy named Dr. Nick Despotidis who spent like 20 something years developing a system of converting myopia management patients. So we thought it'd be cool to bring on these experts to find out how they overcame those same kind of problems and ask them about their success in myopia management. And it's not just me asking the questions of our panelists. If you, the audience, have a question for our panelists as we go through this episode, feel free to put that in the Q&A section of Zoom. So what you're also going to find out here is that despite the fact that both of these doctors practice in different settings, Glenda is in a retail setting at Walmart and Nick is in a private practice. You're going to find out that they have a shared ethos concerning success with myopia management and their patients. Different environments, different hurdles and issues, different patient bases, yet they have a lot in common when it comes to success in this space. So we're going to start off with our first question, which is, why do you practice myopia management? So for Nick, you've been doing myopia management for 20 years now. And if I remember correctly, you and your partner were super busy. You were successful. You were making money. So why did an already successful private practice incorporate myopia management, and why have you stuck with it to this day?
You know, when we started our practice, we were a traditional optometric practice. Most of the patient practice revenue was generated from glasses, soft contact lenses. And I guess after 10 years in practice, you're right, we were busy, but we weren't necessarily, I guess, fulfilled, because our values were respect and financial security and just enjoying ourselves in the practice. And the busier we got, those values weren't being fulfilled. So I guess in about 1999, we really started to focus on myopia management, specifically orthokeratology, and that became my segment of the practice. And we did this specifically, I guess, to reduce our dependence on vision plans, and that has really panned out to be correct. It basically eliminated our dependence on third-party plans, and concomitantly, it transitioned our practice to one that was based on volume. That was really what our practice was based on. We wanted to be busy. And as we transitioned to orthokeratology, we focused on quality and were able to see less patients per hour and generate more profitability. And that's why we decided to focus upon it. I've stayed with it literally to this day. And you're right, I do it full time.
Glenda, similar question to you, but I've been around this industry since I was a kid, and ortho-k specifically has been around for 50 plus years. And one of the controversial opinions that I've heard time and time again is that essentially myopia management should be the domain of private practice, that it shouldn't be in big box or retail settings. And yet here you are doing myopia management out of Walmart of all places, and you're killing it. So I was hoping you could elaborate not only on why you do myopia management, but also how you're doing it in a retail setting.
Thank you, Matt. So very fortunate for me, I decided, or I learned that I wanted to work with kids. And when I was in optometry school, so when I went through my rotations, we go through contact lens, which I honestly thought that was going to be my calling because of my background in opticianry. But I went through contact lens clinic and I was like, okay, I wasn't feeling it. I went through all my different rotations, low vision, definitely I know. But actually my family noticed that every day when I came from the pediatric rotation, I was just happy. I was just so joyful in telling them, the stories of all the kids that I worked with on the day. And they actually brought it up to me and they're like, you know what, you definitely need to work with kids because we noticed that when you come home after pediatrics, you're just happy. You're a happy person and you're not the same when you come back from clinic, when you're working on these other rotations. And I was like, you're absolutely right. So I was very fortunate in that sense to figure it out very early in my career that I really enjoy working with kids. I love working with kids. So that was number one. And, of course, if we're working with kids, 1 out of 4 children is myopic right now, and 50% of the population will be myopic soon. So you have to do myopia management. So there's no way, in my view, right, to do pediatrics without doing myopia management, even if you are not an ortho-k person, because I have a lot of colleagues that are great clinicians and maybe they do pediatrics, but they focus on binocular vision and they really don't care to do ortho-k, and that's okay. But you need to at least be confident and comfortable enough to educate the parents and do that referral, if you're not ready to do ortho-k. So for me, it was that. I was very fortunate that I started doing myopia management from day one, my first job, where I was working for a practice. And I have to say that I am self-taught. When they interviewed me for this first job, they asked me, do you do ortho-k? And I said, I have done exactly 1 patient in a 2-hour workshop at school, but that's what I want to do. So I'm like, this is a great fit for me. And the owner of this practice, interestingly enough, had done SuperCharge Your Practice with Dr. D. And she said, well, there is this doctor, he is amazing. And she said, he's doing a webinar tonight, and I need you to watch this so that you can start getting ready. So I would watch Dr. D's webinar podcast anytime he was on, because the owner of the practice was part of the AAOMC, and she would get all the emails and notifications. So that's how I learned to do myopia management, is watching Dr. D. And that's why today I'm so, I cannot even express how happy I am to be here, because I literally learned from him. So I learned the technique at school, and, I studied the book that they gave me at the practice, actually. And I attended a lot of myopia control lectures, but to actually implement it like a whole different science. And that I have to say that I learned from Dr. D. So now that was the business part of me, the doctor side of me. But I think really when it hit my heart was when I came to my Walmart in Miami. So the practice was in New York, and then they called me from Walmart and they asked me, hey, there is this opening, do you want this store? And I said, sure. And when they approached me, I knew that I wanted to do myopia control there. But honestly, I was doing from the clinical aspect and from the financial aspect. It wasn't really when I really got the passion for it until I met this one patient, and he was 14 years old at the time. And he had not your typical myopia, but he was 11 years old when he lost his left eye, due to a massive retinal detachment. He went through several surgeries, and unfortunately they could not save his eyes. And I have to say that when that happened, it just completely changed my view on myopia management and the reason why I wanted to do myopia management. So it became very, very personal, because it's not the same to read the statistics and look at these beautiful charts that we all put on our lectures and look at these numbers. Then when you have this little kid sitting in the chair and I realized, oh my God, this is so real. And it just completely changed my point of view. And I started doing, at that point, I was only doing ortho-k. But once I met that kid, I knew that it was necessary for me to start doing everything and using every single tool that there was out there to do myopia management. So I started doing atropine and using soft lenses with dual focal design.
Gotcha. And Dr. D, taking a page out of your book, that's basically an inflection point. Wouldn't you agree? I mean,
Right.
That's what you teach in SuperCharge, and you've spoken on the Corrective View podcast about it. How does that make you feel to know that, Glenda essentially learned her passion from you? And what is the makeup of your practice? It's got to be all pediatric, if not mostly.
Yeah, I was very touched by Glenda's story. I don't know Glenda. I just met her in preparation for today's podcast. And it does really make me extremely happy that not only that she listened to the podcast, but she took my advice, because it's very simple to implement ortho-k. It's not easy, but it's simple. There are certain steps. It's not rocket science. And if you follow the steps, you'll be successful. One of the things I feel success is about is basically turning my practice around and making me feel successful, giving me life outside the office as well as inside the office. So one of the values was, my background was not in contact lenses, it was in vision therapy. And I just, like Glenda, enjoy working with pediatrics and their families. And in my experience, ortho-k is a pediatric procedure. It has two distinct benefits. It allows the child to be free of eyeglasses and daytime contact lenses, and it also helps slow down the progression of their myopia. So this makes me feel successful every day, because I go in, all my patients happen to be children, and I see them grow up. So now they're adults. And what's very touching is they'll bring in their own children to see me. So that really is why I still very much enjoy myopia management after doing it 20 plus years.
So that would be how you define success, because I feel like that's the next point we should make, is if we're talking about how to be successful in myopia management, how do you define success? And Glenda, would you agree with that? Do you have a similar definition of success?
Absolutely. Yes. It's a little different in the retail. So for me, because I am, in Walmart, and you have to be respectful of my retail partner. For me, the success was where I got to the point where I could not longer efficiently accommodate all my myopia management patients in the Walmart. And I had the need to open a satellite location. So I am very happy now to have a clinic that is dedicated to myopia control only. Now, the reason why I wanted to, do myopia control in the Walmart was because I believe that these treatments should be accessible to every child. So I have, adopted the phrase "no child left behind." So to me, when I went to Vision by Design back in 2018, I told my colleagues that I met that I was in Walmart and I was going to do myopia control, and they would look at me like, "What is wrong with you?" And they're like, "Oh, please don't do that. You're going to devalue this service." And I'm like, "What are you telling me? That these kids that go to Walmart don't deserve the same treatment as other kids? They need to have access to these wonderful treatments that we know how to do." And I said, "Don't worry, I'm going to make sure that I, charge for my time accordingly." And I did. I never, never charged less than anyone else at a private practice. If anything, anytime I met someone and I said, "How much are you charging?" And I said, "This is how much you should charge. That's how much I'm charging." So I made it a point not to, give away my time. So to me, that's what, I just define success. I still do myopia management in Walmart, but now I have a clinic where I only see patients for myopia management. And I have my next door neighbor is an orthodontist, and she looks at me and she's like, "How can you afford to do that?" She's like, "You're only there 2 days a week for half a day." And I'm like, "That's all I need." And I'm like, "I just need a few ortho-k patients. That's all." Or myopia management patients. So, we've only been open here for a couple of months, and it's been consistent, that I get referrals every week. So coming from the retail setting and doing myopia management there, one of the biggest, I guess, success feelings for me is having my colleagues that are in a private practice refer patients to me, even though I'm in a Walmart.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've heard similar sentiments before about practicing ortho-k like in a big box environment. And I think you make an excellent point. It should be about taking care of the patient first and foremost. And my question is what I mentioned at the top of the show was that, there are certain reasons some, eye docs have given me as to why they're not doing myopia management. One of those is that their patients are coming from a low income bracket. And if I'm not mistaken, Glenda, your patients are coming from a primarily low income bracket as well. So I guess my question is, do you treat your myopia management patients differently? Do you have a magic wand that convinces people to spend money, or is this changing the mindset, or is this dependent on just having good candidates?
So I don't have a magic one. So I do think, and I do have to say that I do treat my myopia management patients differently. I mean, it is my passion, and there's no denying that. I could be super tired, and at the end of the day, if I get a patient that signs up for myopia control, it's all my tiredness goes away. There's this fulfillment, this joy that I get. So I treat, even though I am in a Walmart, I have followed Dr. D's advice from the very beginning. And I actually have a second office, and I call that my myopia control suite within the Walmart, because as Dr. D knows, or he taught me, we want these patients to feel very special. We want, this is we give them so much information, and this procedure, it's, could be scary. So I want to make their experience as easy as possible and as pleasant. So I have my little snack bags that I give to my patients. They sit, when they're waiting, they sit in a separate office that it's, if you were there, you do not know that you were in a Walmart. It's very pretty. So, I'm all into the aesthetics of the practice. And I do. So that office is only for my, myopia management patients. They sit there when they have to wait with their ortho-k lenses for 15 minutes. They sit there nice and relaxed with their parents. We offer them snacks. We offer them drinks. Non-alcoholic, that is. But yeah, we do treat them, differently. And in my myopia only clinic, that's great, because that's how we treat every single patient. They're coming here, they're coming for myopia control. So they get treated like royalty.
That's awesome. And Dr. D, that's got to warm your heart. I mean, you practically wrote the book on, offering a different kind of patient experience. And I'm going to pose the same question to you, because oftentimes I hear, I don't get enough of patient X in order to do myopia management practice. If that's Asian patients, but then you could talk to a doctor in San Diego or Houston who have tons of Asian patients, and they say, I don't do it because I don't have patient X. And that's just a slightly different version. So same question to you. Is it a change in mindset, or do you just say like, oh gosh, I hope I get patient X in order to be successful?
Two things, going back to retail versus private practice, I truly believe it's the optometrist, ophthalmologist that determines the mode of practice. Maybe decades ago, whether it's box or non-box, but it's the OD that really determines the quality of care that's provided, not the environment. And it's up to you to make the environment. For us, we did it very slowly before 2000. We were dabbling, we were scared, very scared about dropping insurances, very scared about taking on a new specialty. I think the key to success in any field is to totally commit. And around 2000, 2001, certainly when Paragon's CRT was FDA approved in 2002, that's when I decided I'm going for it. And the reason I said that is because the practice at that point was not fulfilling the values. The values is, I was struggling to spend time with my family or myself. Even though we were so busy, sometimes the owners didn't get paid. It was really a paradox, is how could you be so busy and yet at the end of the day, not make enough money to pay the owners? Something was wrong. So I slowly made a commitment. I isolated a half a day, totally committed to myopia management. It was the best thing I ever did, and I was scared to death. It was my staff that came up to me, cornered me, and said, Dr. D, listen, you're starting to see a few more ortho-k patients. We need to close out a Monday afternoon. I remember it like it was yesterday. But you have to realize I was seeing patients and they were generating revenue. And I knew exactly the average revenue per patient. So to close out an afternoon was very scary to me. But once I did that, I kind of made a commitment. I burned the bridge behind me and said, listen, I'm going for this. And that was 20 years ago, 21 years ago. So I think the key is know why you want to make a commitment to a subspecialty like myopia management. I think you also have to realize you can't be everything to everyone. And I just, my stomach turns when I see every colleague of mine trying to do everything. And they're doing it, but they're doing it probably not at their highest or most optimal ability. And it's not that I have any special techniques. I'm committed to it. I've devoted myself to this and really been rewarded more than financially. So the first thing is know why you would take on any subspecialty. And number two is you have to make a commitment. If you dabble in this, I think Glenda will reiterate this, and you start fitting your ortho-k or atropine or dual focus soft lens fits in between your glaucoma checks and your exams and your RX checks, you just added more to your plate. You detracted from your quality of life. I think once you make a commitment to do this, you'll be rewarded. It takes time, like investment, but boy, oh boy, I have to tell you, and I have no reason to deceive anyone. Glenda and I are not being reimbursed to be here. I think that's important for everybody to know. We're donating our time because we want others to know that we were scared just like you, but yet we persevered through our fear, not in spite of it, and we're very happy we did that.
Glenda, would you agree with that? As far as, I mean, so many good things said there, obviously, but I would like to key in on one particular, which is the point of dabbling. Because the way I see it for the average OD out there, this has to be super intimidating that their entire practice is built for one way, and they need to see patients as quickly as possible. And then you bring in myopia management where you need to spend more and more time with the patient. So to speak to what Dr. D was saying, I mean, how do you make that transition, or how did you make that transition without putting yourself in the poorhouse?
Yes, so absolutely, it is scary. I have to say that fortunately for me, I didn't go through that transition because I started doing it from day one. I knew what I wanted to do, and so I think that gave me an advantage over, a lot of ODs. However, doing it for me in a retail setting, I had to be very strategic. First of all, being very open with my retail partners, letting them know that, hey, this is what I want to do, this is why I want to do. And, surprisingly, or despite what most people would think, the leadership team in Walmart were all involved for it. They were so supportive with me from day one. So I did make it a point, in the retail setting, that I schedule my ortho-k patients, my myopia control consultations on the times where it was slower for, the retail, for the optical. So you have to do the time, because there is no way, like Dr. D says, that you can see a myopia control consultation or do ortho-k in between patients. So I had my Monday mornings were very slow, in Walmart. So I set that time aside for myopia control consultations. You learn with, experience. I didn't know that in the beginning. It took me a few fails to realize when is the best time to do a new fit. So I usually try to do those like Thursday or Friday evening, so I can see those kids on Saturday morning. So for me was, I guess the biggest hurdle or learning experience was how to schedule efficiently and still, be profitable for my retail partners, so that they did not see me doing myopia management as a disadvantage to them. So I think that's a very important point for anyone who's here tonight watching us and is in a retail setting, but you can definitely do it in a retail setting.
Excellent. Yeah, that was my next question, was if we have members in the audience or who are going to watch this in a podcast form at a later date, if you're in a big box or retail setting, like what is a key piece of advice you can give them to help start that conversation?
So I think it's very important. We all know, yes, we have the clinical part, the doctor side of us, there's the human side, but inevitably there is the financial side. And that's where having a retail partner, it's very important that you as the doctor understand the business and you can speak the corporate language. So fortunately for me, and I think it's fair to mention that I did work for Walmart as an employee for almost 20 years. So I understand the Walmart system very well. I know the leadership team. I know, pretty much the ins and outs of Walmart. So I think it's only fair that I put this disclaimer out there. So I have a little bit of an advantage. With that being said, if you really know the business, then when you talk to the retail team, you tell them, hey, look, I want to do this. This is why I want to do it. And, once you tell them it's because we want to help these children, we want to do what's right for the patient, we want to do what's right for, the community, they will be supporting you. One very important key is that I don't have 100% pediatric patients in Walmart. My pediatric base is about 20% of the total of my patients. So it is important, when I had the conversation, that I told Walmart, look, this is how me doing this will affect your overall business, because I'm only 20% of my patient base is pediatric. Out of the 20%, about 60% is going to be, myopic. So when you really look at the numbers, it wasn't really a big, number of patients that I was going to be taking out of glasses and putting into ortho-k or doing atropine or dual focal lenses. So I think for retail, it's really crucial that before you go have this conversation with your retail partner, that you look at the numbers, understand your business, know your demographics, and know the finances. So when you go to talk to them, if they're like, well, what about these patients that are not going to buy glasses, right? I mean, I didn't get that experience, but it could come up. Then, you'll say, well, only 20% of the patients are pediatrics. Out of the 20%, it's only 60% that are going to be myopic and are going to be doing this. But once you do ortho-k for one patient, they bring me in the Walmart, they bring me the grandmother, the uncle, the aunt. I mean, I have patients that come from Nicaragua, from Honduras, from Haiti, from Turks and Caicos, from all over the place, and they bring me everyone to see them. So they actually are gaining a lot of other patients that they wouldn't have if I wasn't doing myopia control, because once you do ortho-k, you are just simply like the best doctor in the eyes of those families. They truly believe that you know everything.
Right.
So I have to say, no, I'm sorry, I don't do that. Or
Yeah.
I have to send you somewhere. So I do a lot of referrals, but that has been my experience.
Yeah. And Dr. D, I mean, speaking about referrals, like you have a whole system in place that takes care of that patient. And instead of like spending money on elaborate advertising or whatever, your referrals come from your patients. They're that parent on the soccer field who's like, you're not going to believe the eye doctor I just saw. So do you have any advice for our doctors who are in private practice about, tips for getting that started in their practice? Should they, use lower fees or offer discounts or anything like that, or like a referral discount?
No, I think the limiting belief is that, this is, they're paying for ortho-k or atropine or even myopia control. I don't think parents are doing that. Parents are purchasing what our care entails. And so for the new practitioner, I think what you need to do is enroll one person in your program, whether it's atropine or orthokeratology. That's myopia control for me is orthokeratology. And once you get one patient, if you dedicate yourself to treating that patient well, I'm not talking about getting them to 20/20 or keeping their A scan stable. What I'm talking about is what Glenda was referring to, them liking you so much that they want to refer everyone to you. I don't see family members. I have a multidisciplinary practice. So my optical team or partners are real partners. We share in the revenue in the practice equally, whether they're doing primary care and I'm doing ortho-k. And I take that very seriously. So I don't see adults. They want to refer to me, but I say my specialty, my area of pleasure is seeing children and fitting them with this contact lens and helping them stabilize their eyes and much more than that. So all you need is one patient treated extraordinarily well, and they will be your best advertising, because we call them qualified referrals, because once they're on the soccer field or once they're in school or wherever they are at church, they will say, why is Johnny not wearing glasses? And they will tell them, you won't believe this. I went to this doctor. I never heard of this technique. They fit them with the lens. They don't wear glasses. So when the patient comes in, they say, I want what Johnny had. My friend Johnny's mom told me about you. And now you have to treat them as well, if not better, than that family. So this is how I built my practice. It's literally one patient at a time, treated extremely well. And the last thing they ever thank me about, by the way, is, boy, you corrected Johnny's vision to 20/20. What they're most happy about is how I treated Johnny, how I treated the family, how I took the time. It's so easy to do, guys, right now, because in healthcare, it's a mess. We can hardly get through to our physician's office via telephone or email. They say, email us. I email my physician. I call my physician, and I get a recording oftentimes says, your call is so important to us. Please hold on. In our office, we actually initiate communication. So it's such a good time to specialize in something, because you can stand out by being even mediocre at this point. And once you stand out, patients will refer other patients to you. And that's how we grew. It's that simple, but it's not easy.
Gotcha. And you have a whole system in place, Dr. D, for, like you do that opening consultation that changed when we entered into lockdown because of the pandemic. Yeah. And I was hoping you could speak a little bit to that. Like that changed the way that you practice.
Yeah, there's people think there's a system. The system is what I perceive as good patient care. I just want to give a little background because Glenda reminded me. If you remember in the beginning of this podcast, we talked about 2000. That really was a turning point for me. and where I made the commitment to close on or to allot more time on Monday afternoons. We dropped our insurance plans. And then 9/11 hit, and that anniversary is coming up any day now. And many of you may be too young to remember it, but I have to tell you, in our practice, we were all in. We opened a new practice, we built a building, we dropped insurance plans, and I knew I wanted to do ortho-k. 9/11 hit, and anthrax hit right soon afterwards. It's this powder that was originated right into my zip code. So literally, my practice shut down for months. We barely held on. So now, fast forward 20 years, this pandemic hits, and it's 9/11 for us was not as bad as this pandemic, but same thing happened. We shut down. We're scared. And that made us better. 20 years ago, that adversity made us better. And like Matt was alluding to, I said, oh my gosh, now here we go again. We're closed. Our practice was closed for almost 3 months. I mean, like closed. And we took to the phone. We started calling, like Matt said, every specialty care patient I had. Can you imagine? I have thousands. So we started with whoever was booked. March 14th, we closed. We called them up personally, not my staff, the doctors. And that was a tipping point or inflection point, like Matt said. So I learned that patients really appreciated hearing from the doctor. So now, prior to coming in for an ortho-k consult, even if you're my patient, I get in a video call with you personally. And I say, listen, the reason of this video call, I want to take a history. I want to spend a few minutes getting a good history on Johnny. So when they come in, I'm going to make them feel safe. I'm going to make them feel happy. Your child will be well cared for. And this is what we call a critical non-essential. When I hang up this virtual call that's about 15 minutes, do you know how many people that parent is calling? Saying, you won't believe it. This doctor got on the phone with me, did a virtual call. I saw him write down every notes he was taking when they became myopic, when the parents became myopic, all the questions I asked during the consultation. So when they come in for the actual consultation, they're pre-framed. They already know me. They know my door is still locked a year and a half later. They know how I'm going to treat them. And this has turned our conversion rate to over 90%, meaning how many patients came in for the consultation and actually enrolled in our program. But what I didn't anticipate is our practice has grown 40% since I initiated this. There's many other things I've done, but I got to tell you, the personalized contact with the patient prior to the consultation has exploded our office. So we not only do I do myopia management, we have 2 other ODs that are totally committed to myopia management in our one practice.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, we're about to enter our clinical corner, and I'm going to let Dr. D and Dr. Moheeputh go. But before they do, this is their opportunity to, promote anything of their choosing. And Dr. D, we'll start with you. If people want to reach out, where can they find more information about you on the internet?
Well, you can find it through my website. The nice thing is I'm a private practitioner. I've been a private practitioner for 3 decades. It's almost embarrassing to say. I'm in my 35th year practice, and you could hear it in my voice. I love what I do. I want to thank Glenda because we did a pre-meeting, and she said something to me that resonated. She goes, I talk to my colleagues who build a wall around them that stops them from practicing the way they want. I build that wall. She got through to me. She's thanking me. But I'm saying, how many walls have I built? The walls are, you can't afford it. They won't come in the morning. They won't come in during the week. I have an ortho-k practice that basically mimics a orthodontia practice, and we don't open on weekends. So all these walls that I built, I've realized they're just limiting beliefs. So I want to thank her, and I want to encourage everybody out there. You may dabble, but soon thereafter, I would make a commitment. I have never had anyone come up to me in 20 years of teaching this that said, damn it, Nick, I took your advice. I went for it, and I'm so sorry I did. What I hear is, I took your course. I did not take your advice, and I'm so sorry I never did.
All right. And that course is Supercharge Your Practice. And then I'll turn over to Glenda. This is your opportunity to promote anything you want. And if so, where can people find more information about you on the internet?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. D. This was such an amazing experience, and I will continue to learn from you. I have to say that, building the walls, I don't know, I say things and I guess they resonate with a lot of people. But I was listening to a book recently, and this guy, I love what he said, because he said, I love obstacles. And I think that that's something. We published an article that was, what are the barriers to myopia control? And I think one was, we don't know enough. So it was the lack of knowledge. The other one was the overcoming the financial burden of investing into equipment. And the other one was like, well, we don't have enough patients. So in this book that I don't remember the author, I'm terrible.
The obstacle is the way. The obstacle is the way. But
the obstacles, it was so beautiful the way he put it, because he's like, you know what? I love obstacles, because if I can enumerate, if I can list my obstacles, then I know my opportunities, and then one by one I can tackle them and overcome those barriers or those obstacles. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. As Matt mentioned, I do consulting for anyone who's interested in implementing myopia management but just don't know where to start. We have a very simple step-by-step program where we help you. We look into your practice, we learn about your business, and we incorporate a program that's going to work for you. So it's very individualized. With that being said, the name of my consulting company is OK Love. So if you look ortho-k-love.com, that's our website, or just reach out to me. I'm sure you can find me on the internet. Thank you so much for this opportunity, guys.
All right. Thank you, Dr. D and Glenda, especially because these are AAOMC members. I mean, Nick brought it up earlier. They weren't reimbursed to appear on this show. They're volunteering their time and their expertise. So thank you, both of you. And then I'm also going to say thank you to our sponsors, GP Specialists and Contamac, for supporting this episode. And with that, we're going to transition over to our clinical corner. I'm going to introduce Dr. Leah Johnson. And Dr. Leah Johnson is the Director of Professional Affairs at CooperVision Specialty Eye Care Americas. She is responsible for the development and implementation of clinical and education programs, supporting current and future eye care practitioners across the Americas and China. Leah, welcome to the program, and take it away.
Hi, Matt. Thank you so much for having me. And I learned some amazing clinical pearls from Dr. D and Glenda as well. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Leah Johnson. I'm the Director of Professional Affairs with CooperVision Specialty Eye Care for the Americas. I do want to share with you some unfortunate news. Mark Cosgrove, our General Manager for GP Specialist, which is a part of CooperVision Specialty Eye Care, will not be with us today. He had a family emergency. His son broke his ankle, and so he's with his son in the ER right now. But thank you for joining us for the first webinar series with AAOMC Knowns and Unknowns webinar, and to stay with us for this clinical corner. So I want to share with you today on why CooperVision Specialty Eye Care is your partner to help you build and grow your ortho-k practice. Whether you're just starting out or you've been practicing myopia management for years, there's 3 parts to growing your ortho-k practice. Starting with the first one, you need to select the right products, the right training and education, and the right practice management materials to share with your patients. And so that's why we're having these variety of podcasts to be able to help you become more successful in myopia management. But with our limited time today, we're going to focus on selecting the right products and selecting the right ortho-k design for your patient. And with the addition of GP Specialist, I'm happy to share with you that now we have one of the world's largest selection of ortho-k lens designs. We have our trusted Paragon CRT lens. We have our highly customizable IC lens. We have computer software designs with OrthoTool, and we offer the GOV lens for the most complex fits. And so I'm really proud and happy that we can say for so many of your patients, we have an ortho-k lens design that we can help fit your patient in. And most ECPs offer at least 2 or more contact lens designs in their practice. I know I do. I have my main workhorse lens for daily disposables, monthly lens, scleral lenses, same with ortho-k, right? But then when maybe my patient depending on case complexity or the level of customization I'm going to need, maybe I need to use another lens. And so that's why with GP Specialist, we have 4 different ortho-k lenses to help you fit your ortho-k patient needs. And so we are a company that is offering a diversified, comprehensive ortho-k portfolio to service your practice needs. And so to start, when you want to say, what ortho-k lens design should I use? The very first thing I think of is, who is the ideal ortho-k candidate? Because no matter if you have, all these great ortho-k lens designs, if you don't have a great ortho-k candidate, that's going to be your first key for success. Choose the appropriate ortho-k patient. So some of these, suggestions: children progressing in myopia. Children tend to not be as picky with their vision, and they let you build up your confidence as you're learning to fit ortho-k. Spectacle wearers, motivated to not wear spectacles. They want to have a lens-free lifestyle. A lot of them are contact lens dropouts, perhaps, and they've gone back to glasses. So they're so excited to find another option to have, to have corrected vision without wearing spectacles. Soft contact lens dropouts, low to moderate myopia, those are ideal ortho-k candidates. And patients with the average corneal shape. We don't want to go very flat Ks or have too much touricity when you're first starting out to fit ortho-k. And so some of these factors to consider, we have the objective factors like the corneal shape. You're going to get that off of topography, the level of myopia, autorefractor, subjective refraction. But then there's other considerations for subjective factors, the patient motivation. If this is a child and the parent wants them to wear ortho-k lenses, but the child is not motivated, trust me, it's not gonna last forever. Maybe that parent might get their child to wear the lenses for 3 to 6 months, and afterwards the parent gives up. So we need that patient motivation. We need the patient commitment along with the parent commitment, hygiene and maturity level of the patients as well, especially for our myopia management pediatric patients. And so if you are a newbie and this is your first time or you're just getting started with ortho-k, some of the factors that I really consider of, this is going to be a complicated patient, or this is going to be a patient I really want to set expectations. And what are factors that are going to lead to excessive chair time? Because no one wants to have that patient back in their office for the 10th time and they're spinning their wheels, right? Deciding what do I do next? So things to consider: poor ortho-k candidates, current GP wearers, even current ortho-k wearers. If you don't know what lens design they're wearing or they have a decentered lens, you want to wash them out before refitting them into a lens. It's very hard also to switch between different brands, as different proprietary parameters don't always equal up. And if you have a decentered ortho-k wear, just wash out, because that lens will continue to move towards that decentered corneal mold. Some kind of refractive aspects to consider: mixed astigmatism, hyperopic with, a hyperopic patient with astigmatism. Those are going to not be very great candidates. And patients with also high astigmatism, not great candidates, especially when starting out. So with GP Specialist, we have definable choices. We have Paragon CRT, we have IC, we have GOV, and with OrthoTool. So for today, I'm going to share with you some case reports on when I would use what type of lens for a patient. With Paragon CRT lenses, we have immediate dispensability with the diagnostic dispensing set. So let's take, for example, you have a patient who is in your exam room. They're eager to get started with ortho-k. And with Paragon CRT, right then in the practice that day, you can keep that momentum going to dispense a lens immediately from your DDS, and they can experience clear vision the next day. So let's take an example here of our patient. We have a patient with a flat K of 42, steep K of 4250, so pretty average, moderate flat Ks. We have a manifest refraction, 325 of myopia, and we measure their corneal diameter size of 11.6. So we can all put this in our online calculator. You can go to it at crtcalculator.com. And we can actually change different features, different optic zones. If you would want your patient to have a smaller optic zone, you can change the Jessen factor, and then it's going to calculate the CRT parameters that you would need for your patient. And so with immediate dispensability, you can schedule your one-day follow-up the very next day. And this is a huge benefit for you as the ECP because you have a new patient already signed up for their ortho-k fit. There's less appointments, and you can troubleshoot lens changes by changing the diagnostic parameters instead of bringing the patient back for every single lens change. And this is a huge motivation for the patient as well, as they can literally see the results the next day. They're very motivated to continue on with ortho-k. So another great reason to fit Paragon CRT is that we are the only lens with transparent lens parameter changes. So we engrave on our parameters of the lens, and this will help you in so many ways. We have our base curve, our return zone depth, and our landing zone angle, all the parameters you need to fit that lens. And it's going to ensure that when the patient comes back, that you know that they're wearing the correct parameters. I've had patients come in for their follow-ups and, perhaps their vision wasn't optimal. And then I find out that they're not wearing the lenses that they were originally prescribed. Maybe they're wearing an old pair of lenses. We've even had siblings mix up lenses. So having these engraved parameters on the lens will help you as an ECP ensure that they're wearing the lenses that you prescribed. And with Paragon CRT and our immediate dispensability, we also have transparent lens changes and parameter changes. And this is also very easy if you're transferring or inheriting a CRT patient who may have moved and now they are now at your practice. And so this is a case example that we had from UC Berkeley. And the patient came to UC Berkeley, their myopia management clinic, and the patient had less than optimal vision, right? 20/30. They were able to read the parameters on the CRT lens. And taking a look here at these lens parameters, we can see that we can actually go a little bit larger. And so they actually flattened the base curve a little bit more, increased the diameter of the lens. And they were able to dispense this lens to the patient and get great results immediately. All right, so with Paragon CRT, we have, transparent lens parameters. We're able to see what is written on, inscribed in the lens. But there are other designs and lens that we can consider for different other patients. Okay, so let's talk about this next scenario. You have a patient here, and we look at their keratometry readings, and we look at their manifest refraction. And just looking at these topographies, the first thing I notice is that blue indicates very flat topographies, and that correlates with the keratometry readings, and they have a moderate to higher manifest refraction. And so for this patient, I would not want to fit them in a Paragon CRT lens. Even if we were going to try, they probably wouldn't receive the full amount of correction. And so it may be a bit more difficult and more chair time. So normally we would say, let's just aim for partial correction if it was CRT, but with GP Specialists and the IC lens now, we have a high flexibility to manufacture an ortho-k lens to match your patient's needs. And so with GP Specialist lenses, we do have some trial set lenses. They are more diagnostic lenses though, and they're not they're not fully dispensing lenses, but we have empirical lenses. And so with empirical lenses, you have, you don't need as much office space to carry the diagnostic dispensing set. The first visit is very easy because all you need is your RX, your K values, your corneal diameter, and you're not placing anything on the eye. So it's a very quick way to, get through that first exam. And then topography, though, is very, very helpful in empirical lens designs. And so with IC, we have so much flexibility and customization. We can change all the curvatures of the parameters. We can change the width, the back optic zone diameter. And so this was for our patient. You can see that we do have a lot more parameters than with the Paragon CRT lens. But this patient, she was a -5. And on the very next day, she was 20/25 vision and had about half a diopter of refractive myopia left. So the benefit to you as the ECP is that with IC lenses, we have an accurate fit. These lenses work very fast, and you can customize the lenses for different levels of case complexity. You can control how much you want it customized based on your comfort with ortho-k lenses. And if you don't want to customize, that's fine as well, because we have a consultation team that will help you make all of these parameter adjustments. And so as we discussed here, the benefits to the ECP is that it may work faster, customized lens, and you as the practitioner can also control that lens customization with expert consultation. And the benefit to the patient is that we can actually now meet and match the patient's needs for an optimal vision and fit, depending on their patient parameters. Another option that I do want to share with you about with the GP specialist is with software. With OrthoTool, you can actually design and have full total parameter control. So with OrthoTool, this is really now you as the doctor, the consultant, you have total parameter, you have full customization, and you can understand exactly what changes you're making. So that's also another great option depending on what type of practitioner you are and if you want to tweak and change your own lens designs. And so kind of to summarize this is what to choose when you have a good ortho-k candidate. With GP Specialists and one of the world's largest portfolios, again, we have Paragon CRT, IC, OrthoTool, and GOV. And with that, I wanted to share with you to please go and visit our website, orthokportfolio.com. You can also scan this QR code right here, and that will also take you to our latest program, a myopia management mentorship, to help you build your myopia management practice. So once you set up an account with GP Specialist, you receive your IC certification. We are going to have Dr. Matthew Martin help you develop your own myopia management plan for your practice. And so you can scan the QR code or you can go to this website here, and that's in a couple of weeks from now, Wednesday, September 29th at 5 p.m. And with that, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Leah. And this has been the knowns and unknowns of myopia management. And we're going to be doing our next episode on Wednesday, October 6th at this time at 7 p.m. Central. And the topic will be current trends and myopia research knowns and unknowns from an academic and private practice perspective. So be sure to join us for that. If you want any more information on AAOMC, go to aaomc.org. All right. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Dr. Despotidis. Thank you, Glenda Moheeputh, and our sponsors, GP Specialists and Contamac. And with that, we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you.